So over this past weekend, I revealed the new map that I'd been working on. Just a little bit of a thing. I also did reveal my new livery. I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I didn't use just like a color map. I also used like a bit of a shiny reflectiveness sort of thing. But yeah, back to the map. When driving into nighttime, I kind of started to realize that I'd made two mistakes. One, I didn't actually have headlights, and two, these street lights, which I'd removed a bunch of to make this historical, like, headcanon version, they were too far apart and I couldn't see the track at all, so that was a big issue for me. The other issue on the hand was a little bit more technical. It turns out I accidentally left a little bit of wet on the track. Now, this is that section of road where we just found out that the issue was, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you can fully blame me with this. This track has so many things that are abnormal and not the normal way you would make a map. Like, for instance, maybe not these ones, but I'm pretty sure it is these as well. These are not 3D objects placed down. They are 3D objects placed down like trees, like these. They're like an environment thing. I don't understand. For instance, if we find like a 3D object like this, hey, look at that, we can move it around. But this? Select you? No, not quite so easily. If we move that, this was a big pain in the butt. But let's say these sorts of fences. Say if I wanted to edit them, I would love to be able to edit them. Unfortunately, they're not moving. That's because they are the same as the trees. I don't even know how that's possible. To be honest, I would actually really love to know exactly how that works, because that would actually be rather easy to work with. But anyway, getting back, when doing wet ground, generally what you would do is you would have like an asphalt and then say a wet asphalt, and then you would use this to have a normal ground model, which would be like grip and texture and how it reacts and what sort of sounds you get from it, where the sounds of grass would be a little bit different. You can do the same for wetness. And would you know it, they have asphalt and they have wet. But if you think that that's how they differentiate between the wet and not wet areas, you'd be wrong, obviously, because why would it? I mean, honestly, look at it. Here, I've made this like all the same material. It looks like it should work properly. And then I get people like this because I accidentally made the entire track out of water? One, no I didn't. And two, I mean, it's only affecting the one little bit of track. What's with this exaggeration? I feel slighted here. No, what it turns out is this is an invisible 3D model that you can't even see, that is the thing that applies a wetness. But it's also still actually a thing as well. So they did multiple layers of wet. The reason why I went ahead and made this map is because I don't believe there's actually proper racetracks in the BeamNG universe that are not in America. Don't get me started on their love of Americans, or just the America, the country itself. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to convert something into a racetrack, and that led me to reach to this particular map, and then I just converted it to be a little bit more racetrack friendly. Unfortunately, I had to do some pretty heavy edits. And because of the amount of editing that I did, I ended up creating my own lore about this thing. If you want to know what I had as a bit of a headcanon, it's not perfect. It's just scattered thoughts. Think of it as like the Silmarillion, not actually a part of the original works, but kind of like the headcanon sort of stuff. So yeah, think of that, except a lot less thought out and a lot more jank. The idea is that this racetrack was originally created by a local lord that owned a castle way back in World War times, and then the descendants ended up getting a hold of this racetrack, which he built, and they made it a little bit better. I'm guessing that maybe the original iteration was just like a go up, come around here, and this would have been a lot smoother, and then just go down the loop and then back up around. Because very early racetracks were just about reaching high speeds, and that was the big exciting thing. So over the years, this thing went over many iterations. Ended up getting like the squiggly line down here. You got maybe like a go-kart sort of circuit laced around. Still got the oval, which probably would have been an original thing as well, though I I don't know if this really fits into my headcanon. Oh, my headcanon is that this is also not owned by ETK yet, so you can go away. And then it just wasn't a very good track. With a lot of tracks, even like including the original Nürburgring, there was, Nordschleife, sorry, there was no pit lane. So this is like an improvised pit lane, and then the racetrack goes around here. You got more chicanes that have been added in over the times, but generally it just wasn't a very good facility and ended up just costing way too much money. And then eventually it ended up getting bought out by something like ETK, where they turned it into more of a driver experience sort of system. So this is before then. Now, I believe that a few tracks have actually had this as a backstory, and that's where I kinda drew inspiration from. I believe there is actually a castle in the middle of the Nordschleife. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, so I feel that that's kind of the lore that they're going for. It's even got like the large big, can you load please, Google? Thank you. Yeah, it's even got like the one big large cylindrical tower. Do you see the uncanny sort of resemblance there? Maybe they were wanting to make this into a much bigger map. I did consider joining this up with this side of the road as well to make it a whole thing, but then I didn't want to delete this road because I feel that that was maybe a very important sort of road for the locals. I don't know. And then with the whole resurfacing probably sent the local lord broke, had to sell maybe the racetrack, maybe the castle itself, who knows, whatever. Come up with your own canon if you don't like the extent of my story. In fact, actually, if you make like a video essay on what you reckon the lore should be, and you can tell it in a very well told story way, link it in the description. I will check them out. But do a good job, unlike what I'm doing. Anyway, moving on to more technical things. Yes, I did remove this track entirely. I did have to take basically the PNG that was the ground model, because as you see here, like little bits of asphalt are still here. And if we paint wet, which has the old style thing, you can see that it actually wants the grass to go all the way out here and the track goes all the way. I had to remake that entirely. Then after that, I had to go through and do a whole bunch of edge changing, and then try to cover the fact that the edging doesn't really cover the blotchiness. So if we, hold on, bring up that paintbrush again, look how jank these corners are. I really wish that the BeamNG devs would come up with a better way of doing this. So if we go asphalt flat, and then we do this, you can see that it's added, hold on, a little bit slower there, little bits of black in there. So then if you say want to neaten that up, that edge again, oh no, I'm getting close and now it's putting grass on the track itself. BeamNG devs, this needs to be something that needs to be worked on a little bit. So maybe vector graphing as opposed to a grid-based system would be great. Then, once I made this track, I started to realize that, you know, people could really cut the corners very, very easily. So I put in these large sailage things. Now, there is a bit of a problem with putting in sailage things from the vehicle selection menu, as they are very, very processor intensive. If I can find it, hold on. What? Why? Okay, well, it's broken, but you get the idea. These are very, very tricky. Oh, you know why? I think it's because this isn't... Okay, well, we'll fix that before we release the mod. That'll be the properly done. They were also a little bit small, so what I ended up doing is I ended up creating these, giving the collision mesh only to this part, not to these stringy bits around the side, otherwise you get collision issues. Then I gave it a custom ground model, which is what they should have done for the wetness and not an invisible hidden 3D thing. The idea is that you won't bash into them, but you can drive through them and at least be able to nurse the vehicle through. Whereas if you were to crash into something solid like this, well, your car gets messed up, and I mean, that would kind of happen with a sailage bale that big, but it wouldn't be quite so bad. I mean, even this, you could still kind of drive back, but you get the idea. I don't want people to be, like, trying to clip corners, hold on, and then, touch it and get their vehicle completely wrecked. I want them to be able to try to push the limits without punishing them absolutely brutally. You'll also notice that this area here is a lot wider. That is actually there's a lot more than what you think here. So I wanted to widen it out a little bit. It turns out that these are all one 3D piece, which is a bit annoying. So I had to go into Blender and edit those apart. Then I had to go level out the ground a little bit and try to bring that back. That ended up being one of the biggest issues. You'll notice that the track is not quite flat, and I could flatten it out a lot more. I mean, it'd take a little bit of time, but it wouldn't be the worst thing. I just like the idea of this track being a little bit bumpy and a little bit jank. So I like it. If you don't, I mean, you can go edit it yourself. I don't care. The next thing was I wanted this to be a lot wider. And I feel that maybe it was like a little bit less safe and a little very expensive to have the track go so wide that the ETK developers, when they came in, they would have narrowed this up a lot more to make it a lot easier. So I made that a lot wider. Now you'll notice a lot of other little changes here and there, a lot of removal of stuff. I like the idea of it. Yeah, go ahead, edit it yourself if you want. The very last thing I did was to put in time trials. So go ahead, I have grabbed this vehicle completely stockers right out of the selection menu and give it your hardest go. Oh my goodness, I do not know how to drive this car. Is it manual or what have we got in here? Yeah, that's a manual. Share your best time. I'm going to be using my shifter, not my paddles for this. Oh, I do not have a lot of experience with this car. All right, turn one this time, and you come over a bit of a rise here. Come down and you got to start braking fairly early. I tried to put the checkpoints not in points where it would distract you from being able to see the track, but also in places where you would then find it really difficult to just cut the track. I mean, there are ways to cut the track still, but I think I've done a fairly good job of trying to keep people, you know, mostly honest. And then coming around here, my favorite part of the track is this whole complex here. And then come back this way. Don't hit the sailage barrel there, as there is, or bale, I should say. There is a rock on the inside. And then peeking out the top speed, oh god! To do a lap time of 51 seconds, yes. It's a very short track. So I thought maybe, you know what, I should do probably a full sweat mode of this lap. And whilst we're going around this 90s iteration of this track, I'm gonna give you the proper outro as well. So thank you to all my channel members for being channel members, especially the upper tier people. I will get around to making extra content for you guys very soon. But yeah, this has been the video. It's a very short one today. I've enjoyed this, making this map and learning a lot about this. And now I suppose we could just watch the rest of this. Goodbye.